You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But Jesus says to us, 'Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have?'" What a ridiculous idea, right? Why should I love my enemies? Why should I care about those who torment me, persecute me, say things about me, make my life miserable? And why would God care about them? Why should God care for the unjust? Why not just kill them, starve them out by withholding the rain and sunshine for their crops? Why not let them get what they deserve? Well, the answer is really quite simple. We are all unjust. We have all wronged others, and we have all sinned against God. If God did not send his rain on the unjust, it would never rain, and we would never have the chance to find forgiveness. So let us praise the God who is slow to anger and abounds in mercy, and let us seek to live like he does. If he loves those who are his enemies, as we all were at one time, we should love our enemies like we have been loved. This powerful idea once changed the world. In our modern sensibilities, I think we forget sometimes how barbaric the ancient world was. There was no love for enemies. In the time in which Jesus lived, you hung your enemies on a cross as a display of your might and your power. To all of your enemies, don't cross us. So though the idea of loving your enemies may be ridiculous to us, it was especially ridiculous in a violent first century. This radical idea to love your enemies changed the world, and it can do so again. This is one of the main applications of what we have been talking about. If all people matter, that includes your enemies. They share the same dignity and worth as you do. And as such, we are to love them in a very meaningful way. So the fact that we all matter because we're made in God's image, not only does it give us the motivation to love other people, this knowledge also gives us clarity on a number of issues that we fight about. Things like abortion, race, and sexuality. It is very easy for these issues to become things that we fight about, viewing those that disagree with us as our enemies. Well, in the book, we'll talk about some things that allow us to think more clearly about them and how to engage each other in more reasonable discourse. But the big picture point remains. Regardless of whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, or whether you're not, whatever side you fall in any of these issues, you are not to make your opponent your enemy. And even if it's worthy of calling them that, you still ought to love them. Are you willing to do this? Are you really able to live in the reality of loving your enemies? If you are, this will change the world.